If you want the climaxes of your pro wrestling matches to feel explosive, then you've got groundwork to do in the heat. And to make sure we get it all right, we'll call on the wisdom of a best-selling author and a fictional web-slinger. I'm Mike Quackenbush, and this is Till We Make It. And if you are passionate about the craft of professional wrestling, and you're never done learning all about it, then you are in the exact right place. Because here on my channel, I make videos for professional wrestlers at every stage of their career. And no matter how crazy the weather outside might be, I'm still here twice a week, delivering the goods to you. A quick definition so we're all on the same page. If someone is so far away from you that you can't hit them with your arm fully outstretched or kick them with your leg fully outstretched, they are outside your strike radius. Only when someone is close enough that you could hit, throw, or grab them are they inside your strike radius. A book I happen to reference a whole heck of a lot on this channel is The Anatomy of Story by Truby. And although this is probably designed to help novelists and screenwriters most of all, I happen to think good storytelling is good pro wrestling. There's a Trubyism from The Anatomy of Story I want to call on today, and it's this. He says that conflict held in the smallest space possible heightens the unbearable pressure. Or to flip that pancake over, the bigger the battleground becomes, the less pressure it puts on the combatants. In a pro wrestling sense, the smallest possible space the conflict can be confined to is within the strike radius, when the two wrestlers can hit, throw, and grab each other. That's when the pressure increases, when the tension heightens. When the wrestlers are outside of each other's strike radius, when they are not close enough to hit, grab, and throw one another, that's when the dramatic tension our matches needs is lost. Sometimes when I'm struggling to really understand key storytelling techniques as applied to professional wrestling, I find it helpful to look at other art forms for examples. And there is a great example of what Truby describes in the 2017 film Spider-Man: Homecoming. Consider this your spoiler warning. Truby says that conflict held in the smallest space possible heightens the unbearable pressure. And there's an example of this deep in the second act, the heat, of Spider-Man: Homecoming. In a movie that runs 133 minutes, there's a single 4-minute chunk riddled with tension. And it's not when Spider-Man is fighting his nemesis, the Vulture, on the beaches at Coney Island. It's when they're trapped in a car together in their secret identities. This 4-minute scene has escapes and reversals. It's even got a hope spot or two that end in cutoffs. There's a lot of familiar tools that we use in the construction of pro wrestling matches. And in this match, so to speak, Peter can win by preventing Adrian Toombs from figuring out he is Spider-Man. And Toombs can only win by deducing Spider-Man's secret identity. And part of the reason the tension in this scene is unbearable is because it is held in the smallest space possible. So what can we learn by comparing the scene where Peter and Adrian are trapped in a car together and when they gear up as Spider-Man and the Vulture and fight on the beach? I would argue that while the fight on the beach is spectacular, it lacks the tension, the unbearable pressure of the conflict in the car. Our pro wrestling matches hinge on the dramatic tension, the pressure being heightened all throughout Act 2, our heat. That way, our comebacks really soar, and our third acts feel climactic, so the finish can deliver catharsis to the audience. In other words, the false finishes of the third act will only provide spectacle if the story isn't well structured. And of course, there's nothing wrong with spectacle. However, when that spectacle can be combined with brilliant storytelling techniques, like the one outlined by Truby, it's that combination which takes a good match and makes it epic. Hey, if you're getting something out of today's video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And if you would, leave me one of these while you're at it. To ensure that tension keeps rising, that pressure becomes unbearable, You've got to confine the conflict to the smallest space a pro wrestling match allows. That's inside the striking radius. Metaphorically speaking, that's the car that Peter and Adrian are inside of. To leave the striking radius while trying to heighten the tension, that is to say, moving far enough away from your opponent that you can't hit, grab, or throw them, would be like Peter jumping out of the car at the very first traffic light and running away. All of that unbearable pressure that had been perfectly built up would simply dissipate. If you can successfully deploy Truby's tension-heightening technique in your second act and combine that with a spectacular third act, you're going to take your game to a whole new level. If you enjoyed exploring the parallels between pro wrestling and movies, then I know you're going to love this playlist appearing here for my series, Movies Are Matches. Or follow this link appearing down here to my Patreon. We'd love to have you join the community, and it will give you access to tons of exclusives you won't find anywhere else.